Check out what's been going on with the Pop Culture Cosmos Show and the PCC Multiverse. That's the Pop Culture Cosmos Show.
And the PCC Multiverse. Catch it on the Podcast Radio Network, Apple Podcasts, and over a dozen of your favorite podcast networks.
And on Earth Station 1. And on Earth Station 1. And on Earth Station 1, better known as the ESO Network.
Is that good?
Yeah, that was good. Maybe read your line one more time.
All right. Yeah, you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
And the PCC Multiverse. Catch it on the Podcast Radio Network, Apple Podcasts, and over a dozen of your favorite podcast networks.
That's good. Just in case the other one didn't come through, digitized internet issue or anything.
Yeah, for sure, man.
All right, let's get this started.
All right.
We have a jam-packed show talking the future of Justice League as it debuts in theaters. Black Friday tips and deals, more TV ratings news, a preview of Week 11 in the NFL, and is EA reverting back to its old ways? We talk about that. And is EA reverting back to its old ways? We talk about this and a whole lot more as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse. And we're back for another episode of the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. And I'll tell you what, we have got a thrill-packed, just full of goodness with pop culture, just flying everywhere you can see it. It's just so awesome today. We got everything just lined out for you. Just so much good pop culture goodness. It's oozing out of my eyeballs right now as we speak. But here to break down at least a great portion of it is my good friend. He's the man, the myth, the legend behind Humanica Media. He is the commander-in-chief of Humanica Media. It's Josh Peterson. What's going on, my friend?
Break it down. Good, nothing much, man. Just saw some Justice League.
I know, and we're going to talk about that in a sec. Yeah. I know you got a lot to say about that. You even got the Superman shirt going on there, in which I'd be wearing Marvel today. I'm wearing Marvel today, but oh well.
Uh-oh.
But anyways, we're going to have a jam-packed show for everyone out there. We got a lot of stuff lined up, including a lot of talk about EA and what is going on with them. Who even knows, because they're just doing things that are all over the place this year and really, really going back to the ways when, well, they were really not beloved by a lot of gamers out there. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. We've also got Brent Shelton from bfads.net. That's bfads.net, the place to go for everything Black Friday, for all your news and information on Black Friday ads and all the sales and all the deals. He's going to stop by and talk some Black Friday stuff, including great tips and also some great deals as well. I'm so excited because we've been trying here at the Pop Culture Cosmos Show and Game Source for years to try and get one of these experts on. So we truly think we really scored something really special today. So we're glad to bring it to you. In fact, he's actually going to be also on our Monday show as well. So look out for that indeed. We've also got Jessica Boggs, our great friend from the TVRatingsGuide.com. She's going to be stopping by, talking a little bit more about what's going on in the TV world and all the ratings and a lot of great programs that she has a lot on her mind to talk about. She's going to stop by for that as well. Mike Crockett, our good friend from the wrestling podcast About Nothing, he's going to preview Survivor Series for us and break that down as only he can. I'll tell you what, it's just always great to have him on the show as well. And, of course, our good friend Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Pay Dirt podcast. He's going to preview Week 11 in the NFL for all you fantasy football owners out there. But first, it's the big thing going on in pop culture this weekend. It's Justice League as it hits theaters, well, actually worldwide. Worldwide, going on this weekend. It's going on all over the place. It's Justice League, and we've got Flash and Cyborg and Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Batman battling forces and all that great stuff. Now, I'm going to tell you my thoughts on the movie on Monday's show, but Josh here has already seen Justice League. So if you don't want any spoilers, you might want to turn the volume down a little bit. But Josh, can you just tell maybe in a little bit some generalities and your feelings on exactly what your thoughts are on Justice League, because reviews are simply all over the place.
Right. So I've been trying, like, I didn't read any reviews. I didn't want to. Like, I wanted to go in because, like, I had read the reviews for Suicide Squad, and that's what really, like, poisoned my mind toward it. It was a bad movie in general, but you know, I wanted to go on a zero expectation. So I did the same thing with this one.
I think poison is the word for Suicide Squad, period.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's so I went into it not expecting anything. I wasn't expecting a story. Like, it was a typical DC, you know, in typical DC fashion. I wasn't expecting anything. And I came out thinking, yes, it had its flaws, but it was a fun movie. Like, I don't regret watching it. It was you know, in the same vein as Thor Ragnarok. It was a fun movie. It wasn't you know, it didn't really have a lot of depth or anything to it. There weren't any underlying themes. It was entertaining. It entertained me, and it did what it was supposed to. So from what I understand, though, a lot of the criticism revolves around the kind of like the CGI and how the story feels rushed. But I think it's important to remember that we have, you know, where Marvel took what was it, 5 films to set up their Avengers film. DC has only done, you know, they've done a solo Batman film and a solo Wonder Woman film, but other than that, they haven't
Man
set
of
these.
Steel, of course, as well.
Yeah, yeah, and they haven't really set these given these characters time to develop. So don't go into the movie thinking that, you know, you're going to have these intricate plot lines and all this like character development, because you're not. It's an ensemble film, and it feels just like a live action version of one of their animated Justice League movies. So it's entertaining and it's fun, but it's not like, don't expect a lot of depth from it. And I think if you go in, you know, with that kind of mindset, you'll come out actually thinking that it was an okay movie. Now, do you want me to get into the problems with it, or do you want me? I want to wait until you see it before we go over this stuff in depth.
Well, I heard you're going on sick leave for the next week or so. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yep. Gonna be vacationing outside the cosmos for a week.
Exactly. Well, let's just put it this way. The reviews have been out, and I'll give you generalities as far as it's concerned, and we can speak in that before I go in detail, because I've got a sub for you coming up on the Monday show. We're going to be talking detail, both of us, me, and also your replacement for that time being Tyler Baker. He and I both are going to talk about that in detail upcoming on the Monday show. But I will say this, the reviews for it in generalities said that there's good character building between each other as far as the interaction is concerned. Is that correct?
Yeah, they mesh very well together, and there's like you can see the moments where the difference between Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder. Sorry, hold on. Okay, yeah, anyway, sorry. You can see the difference between Zack Snyder. Sorry.
Obviously, your dog has a issue with Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon.
All right, so you can see the differences between Zack Snyder's and Joss Whedon's parts, like what, you know, their different stuff. You know, it's very lighthearted. There's a lot of that's another thing. Like, it's very lighthearted. There's a lot of jokes, but that's because they have now brought in these characters who, you know, in the comic books, they're funny. They're meant to be funny. They're tragic heroes, but they're funny. And so, yeah, the team dynamic between them was, it was good. And, you know, of course you have, just like they had in the Avengers, you have the moment where the team all hates each other, but like, it wasn't as dragged out as it was in Avengers. It's kind of like a, you know, less than 5 minutes out of the movie.
But then there's also issues with the CGI villain himself. And if you could just go into a little bit about the villain and also as well the story. And I know you mentioned already the story is really not very cohesive. And that could be probably attributed to the fact that there was 2 different directors, and some of it was left in of what Zack Snyder did, and some of it was obviously redone by what Joss Whedon wanted to go ahead and put in as well.
Right. So the villain is Steppenwolf, and you know, if you're not familiar with him in the comic books, he's like the Silver Surfer of the DC universe, except he's evil, whereas Silver Surfer was good. But like he kind of heralds the arrival of Darkseid, and so he's going around trying to collect these cubes. And I don't want to go into
Darkseid or Darkseid.
Darkseid, yeah. Wait, I think it's Darkseid. Isn't that how it's pronounced?
I thought it was Seid.
Yeah, but I think it's pronounced Darkseid. I don't know what to pronounce. I've always read it in the comic books as Darkseid, but yeah. Anyway, sorry. So he's coming to Earth trying to collect these cubes to summon Darkseid from the, you know, to come to Earth, and he's trying to become a god essentially. But anyways, yeah, he's completely CG, and so are his army. But you know, it didn't bother me that much though, because the fight scenes between him and like everyone else, they're very brief. More of the action, you know, the parts where he does fight, everything is CG. So it's not like you don't see a lot of parts where you can see the difference between the real world and the CG characters. I know that bothers people, but you know, I don't know. Like it wasn't really a point with me. It's the same thing with Cyborg. I know there's a lot of criticism on him being CG too, but like it didn't. You got to remember like the universe that this exists in. But that's one more point I want to get to, is that this movie kind of moves it farther into comic-y territory, whereas you know how Nolan's Batman trilogy kept things grounded. This is moving farther into comic territory, comic-y. You know, that not slightly dystopian look that Gotham City has. Like stay for the after credit scene, and then you know you'll see what I'm talking about.
One last question on it, as far as Justice League is concerned. How much does the battle that Justice League goes through against Darkseid's forces, when they're going against the Justice League, how much does that mirror what we saw in the Battle of New York in the Avengers?
It's not on as much of a grand scale as the Avengers was. It's kind of confined to a little like place in Russia, where it's in like one of those nuclear silos. That's kind of where the battle is confined to. And you know, it's not all over the place. You know, like the Hulk jumping through buildings, smashing people into it. So it's not, you know, I wouldn't go as far as to compare it. Like the idea, maybe yes, but you know, it's a short movie, so you're not, you know, they don't have to fill it with that much stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's something else I do want to talk about, but like it'll really just give away one of the entire you know, plot point, so I won't bring it up now. But there are some times when the characters one specifically feels underutilized. Like there's not a lot of consequences for these characters besides the destruction of the world, of course.
Fair enough indeed. That's Josh Peterson's thoughts on Justice League. If you want to share your thoughts on Justice League, hit us up, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Humanican Media, Pop Culture Cosmos, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. There's some great thoughts indeed. We're excited about Justice League, to hear what you have to say, but also, did you get the chance to, are you interested in actually seeing the film? It's scheduled to do, it's forecasted to do a little bit over $100 million this weekend, right in the range of what Wonder Woman did. So it looks like at least it's going to do some pretty decent numbers out of the gate. This is a big deal for DC Films, whether or not they're going to go ahead and basically the DC film structure is based off of what this film is going to do going forward. So Wonder Woman 2, all that stuff going forward, Aquaman, Flash, all the future of all those characters definitely are in concern as far as exactly how well this movie does. So definitely a lot is riding on the success of Justice League this weekend and going forward. So share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Let us know what you think of the movie itself. And also, if you are going to go see the film, or if you're not this weekend, if you haven't already, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well.
Can I have one closing thought?
Yeah.
It's a step in the right direction for DC. That's what I want to say. It's a step in the right direction, but it's, they still got some climbing to do.
Definitely. It sounds like it indeed. And like I said, the reviews are all over the place, but the prevailing thought is that at least with all the issues aside, it still seems like it's an entertaining enough movie to go check out, and to see something like that on a colossal scale with all these superheroes from the DC side finally working together towards a common goal. And that's something in itself it's kind of cool to see. And hopefully a lot of people will be enjoying it this weekend and also going forward. Well, we've got a great show lined up for you today. Like I said, Brent Shelton from bfads.net is standing by. Right after that, I've got an interview. Right after that, Jessica Boggs from the TV Ratings Guide is going to shoot the breeze with us a little bit more on the great stuff going on in the world of television. Then Mike Crockett from the Wrestling Podcast About Nothing, he's going to preview Survivor Series coming this weekend. And then Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Pay Dirt Podcast, he's going to preview Week 11 in the NFL. And then we'll be back to talk some pretty hardcore stuff in regards to EA and exactly what they're doing and why they could be reverting to the way they were in the past, which is definitely not a good thing. But we got a great show, like I said, lined up for you indeed. And it's all going to kick off right here with our good friend Plasma Z. This is this is Mango, and this is the PCC Multiverse. And we're back to close out a great show. This is Gerald Glassford from the Pop Culture Cosmos Show. This is Gerald Glassford, and we're back to close out this great PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. Truly appreciate being part of the broadcast here today. I'll tell you what, if for some reason you cannot catch our show on the Podcast Radio Network every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, or our Monday show, the #1 show on the network, the Pop Culture Cosmos Show, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, it's no problem. You can always download our episodes on the Pop Culture Cosmos channels the Pop Culture Cosmos channel on any of these fine networks. Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to there. We truly appreciate if you do, and if you catch our show there at any point in time. Podchaser, TuneIn, the Ace Podcast Network, Overcast.fm, Player.fm, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Podcast.com, Mixcloud, the ESO Network, the Tangibound Network, the Gunna Geek Network, Cast Crunch, and PopCultureCosmos.wordpress.com. And I want to thank the folks at Podchaser for spreading the good word out on the Pop Culture Cosmos. We're actually in their rankings, the #1 entertainment podcast right now, and we truly appreciate it because it's all because of you listening out there. Josh, you've got a great thing going on, so tell me, you've got a great thing going on with Humanica Media, so tell everyone out there, what is the latest with Humanica Media?
We got a new podcast, couple new podcasts coming out. One of them is called the Rogue Church Podcast. You might have seen the thing up for that. I'll be able to talk about that a little more soon. And there's another one. It's more like history oriented. Luckily, like most of these, I don't have to edit anymore. I'm just kind of uploading and promoting. But yeah, it's good stuff. Content. Gotta love the content, man. Another planet in the pop culture cosmos, and hey, gotta love it. And also we have a new Super BS going up actually right now. I'm posting it in a second. And I don't know what's going on with Inside Sports. I gotta talk to my buddy Charles and see what's going on. And there is the week after next will be What About This returns. In the meantime, you can check out the Humanican Media on the Podcast Radio Network on I'm having a brain fart. I want to say Tuesday nights at 5 o'clock, right? Pacific time?
Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, right
Oh,
there
that
on
was
the
an hour off.
Podcast Radio Network.
We need time machines.
It's okay. Again, that's Attack of the Humanicans on the Podcast Radio Network, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, every Tuesday. It's a great show indeed, because you never know which of his great shows are going to be on that podcast. It's definitely a treat indeed. Well, Josh, before we head on out, we have got to talk about the brewing controversy again with Electronic Arts. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is now out everywhere. It's been talked about so much, especially over the past couple of weeks with the microtransactions that they wanted to implement and the different kind of progression system that made it at first seem like it was going to be truly difficult to garner and earn the type of heroes that you wanted to earn, and all the cool ones like Luke or Vader or whatnot. And it would take a long time before you do. Some of them up to 40 hours of playtime before you can unlock one of them. So I ask you, Josh, things are a little bit different now. They changed as of right now, as of this airing. They've actually gotten so much bad publicity and so much vile and vitriol and hatred from gamers out there in regards to the way they've handled these microtransactions that EA has actually suspended all microtransactions at this point as the game is coming out. They didn't say they're going to get rid of it entirely. I'm assuming it's going to be back in some form or another at some point. But I ask you, Josh, with what's going on now and what's going on with what they did earlier this year with Mass Effect Andromeda, are they back to the old ways when they were continuously, year after year, voted the worst company in America?
I think so, because, you know, if what they've EA now seems like the place where creativity goes to die. You know, they bought BioWare, they bought Visceral back in the day, and they bought Visceral, right? They didn't. That wasn't like a subset.
No, I think they did, but they recently closed them down.
Yes.
They closed them down, but they bought Respawn Entertainment.
Respawn, yeah, and now why do you think? Because games like Titanfall are good for loot boxes, but now they're learning that the fans don't like loot boxes. So
but they're also Respawn Entertainment has been commissioned to do a Star Wars game, just to let you know as well.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, I don't know, man. If what they've proven over and over again is that they don't know how to handle their assets. They don't know. Like, I think that Mass Effect could have been such a great game had they not pulled staffing from it to do other projects, or taken people off the game that were originally part of it, or even like said, hey, we have the Frostbite engine, and when we want you to use this, and when Frostbite does something, it does it really well, but when it fails at something, it really fails at it. So if they would have just let them use what they were used to using, there were so many bad decisions made with that game, and it's just, maybe that was one instance, but there's been more, and it builds and it builds, and we're going to get to the point here where I'm sure less and less people are going to be willing to give EA the benefit of the doubt when these games come out.
What's that clacking noise?
Oh, sorry, that's my dogs walking around the living room. Hold on one second.
No worries.
Okay, where was I?
Might want to do that again because your mic picked up everything.
Okay.
So, Josh, I want to ask you this. Is EA going out of its way to revert back to the ways that they once were when they were consistently called the worst company in America.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on purpose, but it's a fear, and it's also a mismanagement of assets and funds. And they have these properties; they're just not giving them justice. They're looking for ways to make money, and it's not playing out the way they're hoping. And they're also taking properties that are guaranteed, that are usually, like, if you do it right, it's a lot of money to be made off of this, and they're messing it up. Like Mass Effect is a perfect example. And they're not handling their internal assets as well, as far as like employees, like who's working on what. And they have the Frostbite engine, and it's that, they're making it so everything needs to be made on the Frostbite engine. But the Frostbite engine, when it does something well, it does it really well, but when it does it bad, it does it really bad. So it's yeah, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose, but it's starting to look like it. So the more it's like, has this avalanche effect, and the more that they do it, the more these things happen, the more you have these loot box situations or whatever it is going on with Star Wars.
And they closed down Visceral and
closing down Visceral, and all these games and properties that people love aren't getting the justice or the attention they deserve. But the more stuff like this happens at EA, I think the less likely people are going to be to give them the benefit of the doubt and keep going back to these properties. Obviously, their sports sector is, never going to not do well, because they're the only they kind of monopolize that. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen to them as far as like their creative properties go, and it kind of sucks because obviously next on the chopping block is BioWare if Anthem doesn't do well, and that's a really frightening prospect to me.
Well, that's definitely something that I'm concerned about as well, because BioWare does need to get a fair shake, and I also hope it also gets a better chance. I also hope it gets another chance to take a crack at the Mass Effect franchise, and Casey Hudson returning back to BioWare would be a great sign to get Mass Effect back to where it needs to get, because he was originally part of when Mass Effect was truly a successful franchise. But with the purchase of Respawn Entertainment, and now that's working on its own Star Wars game, the closure of Visceral Entertainment after what was reported unhappiness by EA because it was not a microtransaction worthy game and just a single player narrative, that really was definitely a sad blow, especially from the people that were working on it, like Amy Hennig from the Uncharted series and whatnot. And then you also have what happened with Mass Effect Andromeda and the tragedy there, and so much left on the table right there. All this goodwill that was being created over the past couple of years up until the actually very, very strong outing of Battlefield World War One. Battlefield 1. That was really a good game, and a lot of great feeling from that there. But ever since the calendar has turned over into 2017, EA has gone out of its way to make a lot of people very unhappy, and that's really not good for them, and it's not good for gamers long term. Now, they have, as of this recording, suspended all the microtransactions with Star Wars Battlefront 2, but don't be counting them out at any point in time, because I think they're going to be returning that at some point in some fashion, because at the end of the day, EA looks like it will always return to its old evil ways. What are your thoughts on EA and its return to some really bad juju, return to some really, really bad stuff as far as the way it's handling its games, and also the way it's representing itself to gamers? Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, it has been a tremendous episode indeed. All those great interviews, all that great pop culture stuff lined up back to back to back to back to back. I hope everyone out there enjoyed it. Josh, I know you're going to be on sick leave here next week. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
Yeah, I just for real quick, I know since we do talk about pop culture, this seems like a relevant topic to us. I don't know if you read that they announced earlier this week that this is the last year that the Vans Warped Tour is going to be running, and that's tragic to me. That's very sad.
That's from an era gone by. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, like when we recorded a Topicocalypse last night, and we were kind of talking about how because even down here, like the a lot of the oldie stations that are on mainstream radio are being shut down, and like the sound was a good one, and that was being taken off the air for like Christian music or something, and it's sad because like music is it tells stories of generations, and it's we're seeing less and less of it now as there's more and more corporate stuff and stuff that makes money, and like the Vans Warped Tour is really a lot of big band from eras past, and the stuff that I listened to coming growing up in high school and stuff, and there's a lot of bands, like a lot of people got their start on this Warped Tour, and now that I wonder if it's just becoming impractical because the internet and the rise of computers and technology just makes it more accessible, or what it was. But it's sad, man. It's like the end of an era.
It is indeed, but I love my Vans. I can never fault Vans themselves. I know it's just a business decision moving forward, and that they weren't generating enough fan interest, which obviously translates to the because obviously to get those bands and to obviously create the sets, create the atmosphere, the whole 9 yards, crowds, whatnot. It needs to generate a certain amount of income, and if it's not doing it the way it once was, then unfortunately some things have got to change. So it's definitely a sad time indeed for those who enjoy the Vans Warped Tour, and definitely a sad time indeed as I guess for lack of a better term, progress always continues to march on. So for Josh Peterson, well, I'm sorry, but Josh, before you head on out, just want to make sure, let you know before you go on that sick leave, want to make sure that everybody out there at Humanica Media and yourself has a truly safe and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Yeah, well, after Thanksgiving, we're gonna reorganize some things, so you'll have some great content coming up here. We're just trying to get organized. Need a break first. Need a break from the old podcast editing, computer screens, just in general.
Fair enough indeed. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. Before I put, and here's hoping you have a good day. And I want to make sure we thank our guests today, Brent Shelton from bfads.net, Jessica Boggs from the TV Ratings Guide, Mike Crockett from the Wrestling Podcast About Nothing, and Tyler Baker of the Fantasy Football Pater Podcast. We want to thank each and every one of you for joining, and make sure you check out their podcasts and all the great stuff that they offer, their podcasts, their websites, and all the great stuff that they offer very, very soon. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.